And a very warm welcome, everyone. It is day 23 of the lockdown in South Africa, and it's a hearty welcome from myself, Brigetti Limbanda, and my co-host, Viola Manuel. We've been going live every single day to check in with our community and see how you all are doing. We talk about this, that, and the other related to COVID-19, and in particular, how it touches the lives of entrepreneurs and businesses in South Africa right now, and how we can pivot and move forward. Viola, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, Brigitte, and to all our guests and to all our viewers. I'm doing very, very well, actually. I had a day of cleaning today. It just happened. It was unplanned. Sort of sat around looking, thinking, what could I do today? And then my eye fell on like this specific spot in the bathroom when I was going, right, we're doing a cleanup today. So, yeah, so that's what I spent the day doing. And as we all are doing, feeding our families and chatting and checking in. So it was a very nice Saturday. It's been incredibly hot in Cape Town. For those of you who are not in Cape Town, today was a beautiful day. It was really lovely and hot. I did a little bit of gardening, planted some parsley and planted some chives. So yeah, it's a productive day. But I must tell you, it's one of those days where you're just looking forward to 9 o'clock when you could start putting on PJs and getting ready for bed. I'm giving my age away.
Sorry, I'm just trying to say hello to our followers on Twitter and on the Periscope feed, but I need to turn down the volume and somehow it's just not working. Well,
Okay.
I think I did that right. So hello everyone on Twitter and on Periscope, and hello everyone on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Welcome to the show, and glad that you can join us live. And if you are going to be catching the show on the replay, welcome to you as well. Yes, I guess, all these necessary things that we have to do while we're under lockdown. I had to laugh. I saw something very funny today. Um, Someone was saying they wish that their children would start practicing social distancing with the refrigerator.
Well, yeah. Look, we all need to have a sense of humor. It's absolutely imperative. But I mean, I've been seeing some really crazy things. Just some very funny stuff, and it's great. To just have that friend. We all have that friend that sends us the crazy stuff. So it's just helped a lot. This evening we had. For all of you who are not Cape Townian, this is a typical sort of Cape Townian junk food, and that's Gatsby's. I think we've all just been craving something from the takeaway. So we had Gatsby this evening, and it was lovely. It was really just, I don't even know if it was that great or if it was just the fact that we missed it that much, that it was something that tasted, familiar. But yeah, I think the challenge of COVID-19 continues for all of us. The challenge of lockdown. I know a lot of my friends have sort of been saying that it's starting to get a lot more difficult for the kids. Kids, sort of sense that it's weekend, although for me, days are just merging. The kids sort of sense that it's weekend and they're quite keen to, sort of get out. And I think it's starting to really become a lot more stressful for the younger kids, who are starting to realize that the four walls, are just starting to, I think, press in on them. So yeah, so I think it is starting to get a little more difficult. Every day is getting more and more difficult to just have the kids understand that they need to stay in.
Yeah, I think, that is a huge challenge, especially, and I don't want to say it's easier or more difficult for people who have younger or older children, because a lot of the teenagers are struggling with the fact that they can't have that contact with their friends. They crave that contact. Um, and of course, the little people don't always understand when you try and explain to them that you can't go and play with Johnny next door. It's like,
Right.
why? You
Yeah,
just have this why singing in your ears all the time. Why
yeah,
can't I this? Why can't I that? And it becomes challenging after, I mean, it is day 23. It's a really long time, and um, it I think people are starting to also suffer from loneliness, those who have issues. We spoke about that, and the longer it carries on, the more difficult. There was one
Yeah.
thing, one news item today that I saw with regards to hot foods being sold. Now, some of the supermarkets apparently were still selling pre-cooked food, and the minister went live and clarified that they're absolutely not tolerating pre-cooked food being sold.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think there's going to be some, or there is already some pushback with regards to that. But I think it's a difficult one because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And so if you start one, at what point do you cut off and say, okay, well, I allow this kind, but not that kind?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um, I know that the city of Cape Town, for example, has come up with a proposal to have the lockdown changed into something that we have with the load shedding kind of model, a phased approach to load shedding. And something that was quite significant for me about their proposal or their proposed list of changes was that they're asking for hairdressers, hair salons to operate. And I must admit, personally, I kind of thought, well, how do you do physical distancing with a hairdresser? It's virtually impossible to do. So I was trying to wrap my head around how they
Yeah.
came to the conclusion that a hair salon could possibly be safe.
I must tell you, there's just like so many jokes on the tip of my tongue around hairdressers and an essential service, um, which will probably be not be politically correct, but it's a lot of it's two of my friends. My cousin's wife's actually a hairdresser as well, and she says she's been getting so many calls from her clients, just going like, "Are you not even going to open for an hour? I just like really need a haircut. I really need my hair done. I need my hair to be styled." So I know that they are talking about a phased approach. I think that's wise. It's always, with such a major change to just phase in. I think some of the changes that are being, that have been proposed and are being implemented for phase two of lockdown. Um, Look, I think everybody's going to, be questioning and going to be wanting, something that suits them to be considered. So I guess that from the space where we sit as sort of normal, ordinary South Africans without all the data that governments sit with, it might be easy for us to be quite, I think, critical on some of the proposed changes. But I do believe that they are making these decisions based on tons of information in front of them, data that's being analyzed, and so on. And I think that they are working with what they have. Um, it is frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. I mean, I've just tried to see the humor in everything. Sort of standing in queues, trying to get into stores, and watching the security guard with his new purpose. In terms of that sanitation. His main purpose now, of course, is to make sure that every hand that everybody that goes in there with hands are, that they're sanitized, and he takes that quite seriously. And so it's just the proposed changes are going to be, I think, challenging to all of us as well. It's not going to be easy. I know parenting, for example, if you have a parenting plan or you have a court order, kids can go from one parent to the other, and I'm not quite sure how safe that is. But of course, lawsuits, people of the government's being, threatened with lawsuits because, of course, parents are. It's in a very emotional, just situation. So it's quite tough for the government to have to make a decision about that. And initially they said, it's just 21 days, but now it's no longer just 21 days. To not see your kid for that long is quite taxing.
I can well imagine. I mean, it's not an easy. I wouldn't want to be in their shoes to have
Not
to
at all.
make these life-altering changes, whether it's decisions that affect families or businesses, they're all life-altering decisions. And I have no doubt that they're not taken very lightly. There's, so many things that needs to be considered. Um, you know, for community life, the impact it's had on people who live on the streets. It's been an upheaval of a kind that I think the world has not seen before. Everything is so new, and we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants all the time,
Yeah,
trying to figure things out as we go along. I mean, the economic impact is going to be massive. I
yeah,
I can't remember. I watched the broadcast the other day by the city of Cape Town. They've got this weekly program they've got called Corona Cast, and I could be I could speak under correction, but it was something like I think 13 billion rands a day that it's costing the economy by
yeah,
shutting businesses down. It's an astronomical figure, and they're trying to weigh that up with the cost of lives, the cost of health care if we don't flatten the curve. I mean, these are huge, major decisions,
yeah.
and of course, it's
And
great to hear that a lot of people are coming to the party. Like I think short-term insurances have started lowering their premiums. The price of gas has come down. Um, so there's a lot of changes. Kind of almost every day, there's new things that we're hearing about.
yeah, I look again, and to complicate things even further, you've also got the South African context, where we've got lots of, there's a lot of political pressure. Initially, I think one of the things we all admired tremendously is how all the political parties had come together and just worked together on this. And, we don't quite know how long that's going to last before everybody starts blaming each other again and starts causing, sort of dissension in the ranks. So, it's the South African context where, the police are not trusted, the police are not respected, and yet they are expected to play such a vital role in keeping us safe at this time. And so, you've got quite a lot happening, and the just I think the South African context is not it's certainly not making things much easier, which of course is a pity, because we would really have liked all of us to still have that level of cooperation. I think that level of wanting to work together, and you just sort of we in this together. I think more and more it's starting to become apparent, Brigitte, that those who are privileged are experiencing the COVID-19 lockdown very differently from those who don't have that level of privilege. And so it's also becoming very clear to me that the wheels are starting to fall off in certain communities, and it's not easy. You've got your social issues, you've got addiction, you've got abuse, you've got all those kinds of social issues in both in I think in all communities. It's just it manifests itself more viciously in specific communities. So there's a lot happening, and it's actually quite frightening in certain contexts, and certainly not something that I don't think there's a lot of us that don't have to really deal with that kind of issue. But I, I think we take comfort from the fact that this is a global problem, and all of the governments are looking at how to deal with this. And I'm incredibly proud of the way our government has handled it. They've been decisive. They've, just lifted it a little bit where it needed to be lifted, and moved things a little bit where it needed to be moved. But the government have been extremely decisive. They've been communicative. I mean, they have been communicating constantly with the country. They've, just been, I think, really been on top of things and on the cutting edge. I don't think there's any sort of radical, crazy comments coming out from government that everybody's been able to jump onto and been overly critical about. They've just been very sensible and responsible in their communication, very sensible and responsible in their approach to many of the things that needed to happen. The fact that a lot of the political leadership are taking these salary cuts to contribute to the Solidarity Fund. Those, that just amazing leadership in South Africa is something that makes me, gives me a lot of hope in terms of how we will get through this crisis. But yes, it's day 23. It's not easy. I think people are, starting to really struggle with this whole idea of having to stay home.
And for once, it's amazing to see, and I think hats off to them. They are working extremely hard. Government
Yes.
has always taken a lot of flack for falling asleep in Parliament, for not being on the job, for, craziest stuff. But I think during this time period, I think there's not a single person that will not admit to the fact that our officials are working extremely hard. They literally go from one meeting to another, and you can see that these people are are exhausted,
Yeah,
but they keep working.
yeah,
They're having meetings all hours of the day and night. And one needs to realize that these officials also have families that want
correct,
to spend time with them.
correct.
Um, you know, and so they're spending so much time on working on, so that the wheels don't come off the bus for the rest of the country. So I think one wants to also just acknowledge their families and
Absolutely.
the sacrifices that they are making. And I think in the same vein, I think we should also spare thought for the families of our frontline workers, be they the guys that are collecting our rubbish, the people working in the stores, in the behind the tills, or whatever else functions it takes to make the stores work. Everyone in the front line has got a family at home that's making that huge sacrifice so they can serve the community and serve the country. So I
Yeah,
think they definitely need a round of applause because
yeah.
it's taken a lot.
Yeah, and when you do look at some of the ministers now, and I mean, I just think of the Western Cape Premier. We are in the Western Cape. They all are constantly working, and they do look stressed and they do look tired. And it's still another, like over a week left before the next phase kicks in, and planning for that phase. And so exactly what you're saying, I'm sure there's a lot of families that we're probably not thinking about the fact that their families are not seeing them at all. I mean, and the stress that goes together with understanding that they've got to keep all of this together. So yes, I agree with you. Just like a hearty thank you to them and their families, for I think making the sacrifices that they are making. It's really cannot be an easy time for them. But we've got some exciting stuff happening on our side, don't we? We have a few good shows coming up. As promised, we spoke to Lisa and Tareen on day one of lockdown around the rights of employers and employees. And so we got that show happening on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Very excited about that. We're also trying to secure a conversation with somebody in the disaster management sector, and wanting to speak to them specifically about what's happening on sort of the other side of the railway tracks, just in terms of our larger, more challenged communities, what's happening over there. And then I think we've also got someone from the labor federations that we're also going to be speaking to just find out how workers in their industry are coping. And that's very exciting. So, yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff happening next week. So I'm looking forward to the show next week, to what we've got lined up next week.
Oh, absolutely. It's been an amazing journey so far, being, having gone live with the Cappuccino Club Social TV every single day, just to talk about how things are going and how we are all affected um, by the effects of COVID-19. I must say, on a personal level, I had an experience the other day, and I've got really, really bad toothache. So if anyone out there, if you've got toothache, the dentists, some of the dentists are working. Not all of them. I'm finding a lot. Some of the medical professionals in private practice, a lot of them are not working. Um, for good reason, and a lot of them are doing tele consultations. So if you need to see a doctor or a dentist, connect with them. I think a lot of the medical aids are also facilitating these online consultations. So check with your medical aid if they are facilitating that. So I needed to go and see the dentist because I've got a filling that's come loose and it is incredibly sore. And the procedure was that when I got to the hospital, first of all, they asked a million questions, wanted to know, do you have a cough? Do you have a cold? Do you have the flu? Have you traveled in the last 6 weeks? All kinds of questions. And of course, I did disclose that I have a cough because I do, but it's allergy related. And it was very impressive that the person that were going through these questions with me then said, look, if you've got a cough, we're not sure that the dentist will see you. And they phoned up the dentist rooms and said, look, this lady's got a cough, but she said it's allergy related. And then the dentist said, well, she can come up. Well, I discovered what the cause of my toothache was, and I need a replacement filling. And as it happens, fillings is on the list of procedures the dentists are not allowed to do. So here I am
Oh my word.
nursing this incredibly sore tooth. I've tried a whole bunch of these home remedies and nothing's worked so far. And I am, for no other reason, dreading a further extension of the lockdown because I need a new filling.
No, I mean, I can understand that toothache is probably one of the worst kinds of pain that you can experience. And, all those sort of home remedies of cloves in your tooth and all of that kind of stuff only helps for a while. And then it just continues to get worse and worse. So I'm feeling the pain for you, my friend. um, I know that, and just another point that I've discovered quite recently is that hospitals are taking like every visitor that comes in very seriously. They've got a little acronym now. It's you are a PUI, person under investigation. So if you come into hospital for whatever reason and you've got a cough or you've got a little bit of a fever or whatever, they immediately treat you as if you are a case and do all the testing that needs to happen and hold you at in hospital until such time that it's confirmed that you are not carrying the virus, and then they'll actually proceed and allow you to do whatever you need to do. So yeah, so I know that that is why it's so important for us to stay home, because I think already our hospitals and our resources are starting to feel the strain of the increase in numbers. So and the increase in testing that's expected, that they're expected to do, and so on. But I also want to celebrate the fact that we've had over 900 recoveries. So we are South Africans. In South Africa, we are just the recovery rate is quite nice. We've got over 900 recoveries. And I'm sure those 900 families are very excited that their loved one has been able to come home. So let's focus on some of those good stories as well.
Absolutely. It's good to celebrate the wins and not just focus on the negatives. We've also heard some incredible stories of how companies have been able to pivot. One of the companies, and I forget the name now, very well-known company in the clothing industry. They specialize in sports goods. You must know the name. I forgot. The CEO is Philip Kravitz.
Oh,
Um,
Cape Union Mart.
Cape Union Mart, yes. They are, their CMT has just gone into full swing producing masks because we know that they have asked that everyone now wears masks when they're out in public, but we do not want to use the masks that are meant for our medical personnel. We absolutely do not want to touch those stocks. But if everyone else is supposed to wear masks, there is a massive demand. And so KPN Mart is one of the companies out there. I know that there are others that are now using what they've got in stock and the skills that they've got to produce masks for the public. So
Nice.
a shout out to those companies who are doing um, a practical service to the community and making those masks available. So yes, it's great to see innovation happening. There are other companies that are pivoting. Some are stuck, but we do want to celebrate the wins along with. And of course, we also want to think of those companies that are stuck, because it's a problem for not only the management but the people that they can no longer employ and those
Mm.
people who no longer have income. Um, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy, and it's a reality, and the idea of having to now be at home and further your frustration because you now know that you don't have any income. You're anticipating all the calls about, when are you paying this, when are you paying that. It's not an easy space to be in. It's absolutely stressful. So, and also just the idea of, I don't have a job now. I can't go out and look for another job. It's just an incredibly difficult time for everybody. But and so I think those people who are being paid by their bosses, who are being comforted by the fact that they have their jobs and they're being paid in full, etc., etc., so important to appreciate what you have, because there's a whole group of people out there that don't have that, that on day one of the lockdown already had to sort of deal with the information that they were not going to be paid, or they were not going to be able to keep their jobs, etc., etc. So I really just, as much as you're going through a difficult time and it's challenging, just, I think, be aware of the fact that there are other people who are experiencing different challenges and stressful challenges at that. Yeah, so, but it's good. It's all good. We'll get through this.
We will. And I think in closing, I want to re-emphasize the importance of communication at this time. If you are a company, communicate with your clients. Let them know where you are at and where you are headed. And
Absolutely.
if you are just a member of the public and you are in difficulties with paying your bills, communicate. Contact your creditors. One thing I do want to mention is that some municipalities, like the city of Cape Town and others, have come to the party very, very nicely in that they are allowing payment arrangements. Um, they are allowing people to pay reduced amounts. So go to the website of your local municipality and see what they are offering,
Mm,
and make use of those opportunities to cut down on your bills. And it's one of the things that I do want to mention is that when we have a community that is responsible in general about paying their bills, that is what's now allowing, and therefore the City of Cape Town says thank you to its community here for, as a rule, paying their bills in the past, because that is now what's enabling municipalities like the City of Cape Town to give back and offer some leniency in terms of
mm,
the bill. So if you have been paying, it's thanks to people like you that the City of Cape Town is able to offer this kindness now. So make
mm.
use of that opportunity. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap?
That's it. That's it. We're looking forward to chatting tomorrow if all goes well. And then, yeah, behind the scenes, we're trying to pull a few good shows together for next week. Thanks so much, Brigitte. And I hope you took ache abates a little bit. I'm so tempted to just like spew Omen's rat, but I really don't know much in terms of toothache. The most advice I can give you is a clove. My granny used to always say, stick a clove in your tooth and just bite down hard.
I have been trying the clove remedy, so I'm open to hearing some more suggestions on how I can cope with this toothache.
Okay.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a
Thanks, Mike.
super evening further. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye bye.